All right, good evening everybody. Welcome to the Mount Shasta Weekly Zohar Study Group. We're very excited to have all of you tonight here in Mount Shasta and also worldwide. Tonight we're going to study the portion of Tetzave. And Tetzave is a very interesting word in Hebrew because literally Tetzave means and you shall command. But as we're going to learn, as we're actually pretty much in almost every week, we see that the Hebrew language is a multi-dimensional language, so it's never just goes into just one interpretation. There's a deeper meaning behind the command. There's something else actually, which is we're going to cover later on. And I would like to recap very briefly what we spoke about last week, just in the context of the timeline. Last week we learned the portion of Truma. And if you remember, and if you would like also to go back to the video from last week, you're more than welcome to do so, which is also on YouTube. The portion of Truma was, if we count the portion, the sequence of the Shovavim, which started at the beginning of Shemot, we had 6 weeks. Truma was the 7th one. Right. So we spoke about the system of the 7, etc. But actually, we are right now entering a very interesting sequence of 5 weeks that's going to add in Pesach. So if you add 5 plus 7 is 13. So the number 13 is 12. 12. But actually the Pesach is on the 13th week. Oh. So it actually 13 weeks. But the number of 13 is a very interesting number because it has, first of all, the numerical value of Echad and also Ahava and love. But also we learn in Kabbalah that there are students. Yes, thank you. Guys. we have the what we call the 13 attributes of mercy, Yud Gimel Midot Rachamim, and these attributes of mercy are, so to speak, like the building blocks of our work as positive force in this reality. So when we talk about the Yud Gimel Midot Rachamim, or 13 attributes of mercy or benevolence, this is something that we are striving to build towards Pesach. Because, you know, we talk a lot about liberation from slavery and going out of our own personal Egypt, which is a code name for being trapped by the illusionary reality, our lower desires, etc. So this process, if we follow what we've been studying all this time, it can be like very beneficial to us. So what is Tetzave is about? We spoke that those 5 weeks that we're starting last week are the time that we're actually building our own personal tabernacle. And we know that we're not actually speaking about a physical temple. We're actually building a temple which is reflected in what kind of will or desire we create for ourselves, what kind of vessel we have, and how that translates into our reality. And of course it has a physical aspect as well. We spoke about not just our will and our desires, but also how our body is also a temple. But we know that the body or the physical reality is never the goal, it's only the means to an end. So we're sanctifying the physical reality, but we're not worshipping the physical reality. Because if you look at history, there have been a lot of civilizations, even today, that worship physical objects. Statues, minerals, plants, whatever, it's physical. But we know that in Kabbalah, that the physicality is always the effect, it's not the cause. So we're learning how we can utilize physicality to bring us closer to the source. This is how we utilize physicality. We're not using physicality as the goal. That's always kind of what we keep in mind, because our biggest slavery in this playfield is physicality. So we're not here to eliminate physicality, we're here to be the rulers of the physicality, which is also called Malchut. So this Shabbat is a very powerful Shabbat. It's called Shabbat ZOHAR. ZOHAR means remember. And in this Shabbat, in the Torah, we read a portion that talks about the elimination, the complete annihilation of the Amalek. If you guys remember what is Amalek, is a code name for? Safek. Doubt. Exactly. So we are here to really to prepare ourselves to that opportunity, which is followed by Purim. Because Purim is again, I'm not going to get into the story of Purim, but it's the essence of how we can remove major negativity that we may created in some point in our lives, that we don't always see how things are unfolding. But many times those negativities that we may carry for a certain amount of years, even many lifetimes, they affect us through our own self-doubts. This is our own mental prison that we create. Yes.
So when you say this, you mean this coming Shabbat?
It's the portion.
Friday?
Yeah, Shabbat, Saturday.
So Saturday.
Shabbat, yeah, which begins Friday evening
Saturday,
until.
and that's the end of the Parashat HaShavua, or the beginning of Parashat HaShavua?
The Parashat HaShavua, also the portion of the week always begins at the sunset
Of Saturday.
of Saturday,
Of Shabbat.
which means, yeah,
So it's like the end of the portion.
this this Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, when the sun goes down, that's the end of this week, of this week's portion, which began at previous week. When we switch weeks, when we do Havdalah, we're entering a new week. So the new week begins after we do the Havdalah, which means after the sunset on the Sabbath, on the Saturday. That's when the new cycle, what we call the system of the seven, resets itself. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Maybe after, if you have time, you can mention briefly what really the Purim is about, besides, you know, the party and costumes, more to get ready for it. You know, we have a few days, and we have.
So let's talk about Purim a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because you know it's kind of injected that energy already now.
Okay, great.
Get ready for, you know.
Okay, so Purim is always happening on the full moon of Pisces, and we spoke about the month of Pisces, which is a very intense period of concealment. That's the energy of concealment. That's why when we celebrate Purim, it's not about the celebration. Of course, celebration is important, but the whole point of Purim is how we reveal the concealed. That's what it's called Megillat Hester. Megillah comes... Excuse me?
You mentioned that last week.
Yes. So Megillah in Hebrew is a scroll, but Megillah comes from the word legalot, to reveal. And Esther means Hester means concealment. So it's the revelation of the concealment. Now, we always talk about what is concealed, what is revealed, and we know that the whole nature of this reality is a concealment. This reality is concealed. That's why it's called Olam in Hebrew. Olam means comes from the word Ne'elam. It's hidden, it's concealed. What we see with our physical eyes, it's not the big picture, it's not the full picture. So the whole point of Purim is, first of all, the whole point of month of Pisces, why we're told the beginning of the month of Pisces, Mishonichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha, which means when the month of Pisces begins or enters, we should be even more happy. And we spoke about it last week about the two Hays. Remember that the month of Pisces, it's written with those two letters, Hey, Yud, Vav. So we have those two female letters and we have the masculine letters. So the Hey represents the desire. Now what we learned last week, and again you can go back to the recording from last week to refresh your memory. This month we are awakening even stronger desire, which means when we have the female aspect means there's a vessel to draw. It's not about gender. So when we have two female letters, which means that's why, by the way, we have two fish, which is it's a code in Kabbalah, because the fish represents the dwellers that are in the concealed, because ocean represents or sea represents the wisdom. So we're like the fish swimming in the ocean of wisdom, which is the nature of it is concealment. So in this month we are encouraged by the Kabbalists to cultivate even stronger desire to draw the true fulfillment, because we are switching. I want to show this diagram again of we are moving from the month of the season of the winter to the spring. Spring is the beginning of the Kabbalist here. So we're moving from the vessel to the fulfillment. So in order for us to really create a vessel to receive the fulfillment, we have to know what we really want to desire, the real thing to desire. Okay? Because if we don't have the vessel to draw the light, we don't have a way to hold the substance. So we may, because the energy always comes down, but if we don't know how to harness it, we might miss the opportunity. So the whole point of the month of Pisces is to cultivate that vessel, to establish the vessel. And that's why we're talking from last week until Pesach, we have that period of time that we're actually building the tabernacle, which represents our desire to receive. Now what happens on Purim we are connecting to a very, very powerful light that shines in the cosmos. It's an energetic shine, a light that illuminates. I'm not going to go into the story of Purim because I'm not here to discuss the historical events. But when we are able to, and why, by the way, it's a full moon, because full moon, just like in many, many other Kabbalistic opportunities, it's a full balance between the vessel, which is the moon, like we're like the moon affects the water in our body, and the sun is the source. Now, the moon does not have the light of itself. So it's a perfect equilibrium between those two forces. You wanted to ask something?
Yes, and there is a story that, the story we know about Purim, what's happening in physical matter, right?
Yes, but...
however, why we celebrate Purim? What's the reason? Why all this so important? Because, I remember a teacher used to say that one day all the holidays will disappear.
But we know,
one holiday we're going to stay, it's Purim.
Because everyone loves to dress up.
But look, the class, it's not, I don't want to get into the holiday aspect of it because I'm not here to talk about, it's an opportunity to remove dark judgments. The essence of the story of Purim, it's when there was a very negative decree that was imposed on people. And in that instance, these were the Israelites in Persia. But again, I don't want to get into historical events. The point is that in every generation, there is some kind of negativity or some kind of a judgment that may be hovering above us. We don't see that, but there's a way for us to transmit it. We transmit it by our own being, how we transmute how we act, how we think, and how we behave with others. So in that case, what they did, they were fasting for 3 days, 72, right?
That was my question. What happened and what people did to remove the judgment?
And what they did to remove the judgment, they were fasting and they were exchanging gifts, which means, first of all, abstaining from physical, not feeding ourselves with physical food. We can elevate our body. That's why fasting is a powerful thing. But the more important thing is how unity can remove any form of judgment. That's really the secret of it, okay? I'm not saying that we have to fast. Some people fast, some people don't. But the understanding is like if we want to remove negativity from this world, which is going to go deeper into that right, in this class, is how we first of all have to identify it within ourselves. The selfishness. When we talk about negativity in Kabbalistic terms, it's all about being selfish. Instead of being all about us or about myself and how we may separate ourselves from the others, how we act in a unity. Basically, how I serve the community, whatever we do. So whatever line of work we do, whatever talent we have, again, it's something that I'm going to talk more extensively today, how we enhance these talents, these abilities, but for the sake of others. Whatever line of work, whatever business we have, is how we harness that power so we can serve the bigger good. That's really what it's about.
We did fast years ago, remember, 3 days for Purim, but it was for some global reason.
Yeah.
I want to mention something about the full moon. It's also when you can go outside and you can really see in the dark. So there's, it reveals the concealment of the darkness where
the lack of light. Yeah, it's a good point. So this is Shabbat Zohar, and it's a very, very...
Is it always Zohar before Purim?
Yes, always.
Okay. So
Zohar is always before, because Zohar means remember. It says remember the doubt. Identify the doubt, identify the darkness, so you can remember to remove it, because each and every one of us, we have our own doubts. Everybody has some kind of doubts, some kind of darkness to illuminate with light. This is really the essence of what we do here. So this Shabbat has the power, and Purim have the opportunity to draw that light, so we can really prepare going to Pesach, which is we're creating a new year. We have twice a year an opportunity. One is in Rosh Hashanah, and one on Pesach, to start a new cycle every 6 months. So one is physical, one is spiritual. So we know that in Rosh Hashanah is a spiritual New Year, in Pesach is the physical New Year. Both aspects have elements of slavery. One is mental slavery, one is physical slavery. Both are components of our reality. Okay?
So also about the Iskor, remember? You know how they say forgive and forget? But it's not forget. It needs to be forgive and remember, so you don't repeat it.
Exactly. Yes.
It's that's the programming we get from childhood,
We cannot never, exactly, you cannot forget, but you can forgive. But if you learn the lesson, so you might not repeat the same, same mistake, yeah.
And remember the Amalek, remember the doubts. See, the doubts being created for us to forget and to be drawn to the doubts that, you know, that's wrong. Yeah. And it's one portion of the year, by the way, Saturday, that everybody must attend to the Rosh Torah, children. People usually don't come to synagogue this Shabbat of Zachor. They come because in the reading of the Torah, it always says Amalek, Zachor et Amalek, Zachor. We have to hear it again and again in Shabbat to actually download this for whole year. That's how important is that.
For those of us that does not have access to a synagogue, a lot of different places around the world will be actually streaming live this reading this Shabbat. So it's good to hear those words. If you don't have a synagogue around you, to hear the words, because they have a power to download this software, so to speak, energetically. Even if you don't understand Hebrew, but it's good to be in the present to hear that, because that really, it's a very, we're going to talk even today more about the Hebrew letters and their power. So this Shabbat is very powerful to remove doubts. Yes?
So the Zohar book doesn't have any of the actual Torah scripts. It's just the coding of it.
Well, it mentions texts from the Torah, but it deciphers them. Okay. It takes certain portions and then it expands on them. But it goes to completely away from the narrative. It goes way beyond the narrative. It explains to what stands behind the words and the names, locations, etc. So the interesting thing about the word tetzave is, like we said, it's to command in Hebrew, but also tetzave, it means to connect. Letzavot means to connect, to construct two things. So the question is, what are we connecting to what? What do you think?
Source. Above and below.
Exactly. Yeah. Source and physicality. Yeah. So we are the word Hebrew, Ivrit in Hebrew, it means to pass, to transfer, להעביר. So the word Hebrew actually means you are transferring from the unseen into the physical reality. The Hebrew language is a language of transferring or transmitting something which cannot be contained, something which is eternal, into physicality. That's what means Ivrit. Hebrew, that's what Hebrew means. It's very powerful language. So when we talk about connecting as above, from the above to below, it sounds a very noble statement. Yeah, we're all here to connect, but really there is dynamics, how to do it more effectively. That's what we're learning in this portion. Like we said last week, when we talk about Truma, we said it's a charity, but also it means tarum, hey, to elevate. Okay, then we're back. Again, yes, do not disturb. 1 second.
1 second, guys.
One second. Disturb us anymore.
You can watch it there.
Yeah.
All right. Excuse us for the little interruption.
Okay, we are back.
Okay, yeah, we're back. So let's talk about a little bit about. I want to talk a little bit about our culture and what we really invest in terms of our energy and resources, and how we can use what we learn here to invest our resources or energy in a more effective way, so we're not really wasting our time on this plane. So if we look on the majority, I'm not saying everybody, but the majority of our civilization, even more so the Western culture, is focused on investing our time and energy on physical things. This is like a fact. You know, people accumulate things, and people accumulate different status or different titles, so they can even get more physical things. And again, it's not a bad thing to get physical things, because we spoke about it's a means to an end.
We even used the earth as a commodity.
Cool.
Where, you know, just in general culture, where land, you know.
Real estate.
Real estate,
yeah.
You know.
What's real, really, yeah.
The biggest land.
Yeah.
Real.
So, interesting, in Hebrew, real estate means nichse de la nayadin, which means unmovable property. That's how they define real estate in Hebrew.
Yeah.
It says it's a property that you cannot move.
Yeah.
That's how they call it. It's interesting. That's how it's called. So we learned that really there is a statement in British culture. It says a person's house is their fortress. That's how we're learning. It's a very known. Maybe I said it maybe a little bit differently, but in England you say a person's house is their fortress, is their house. Now Kabbalah says a person's house is their temple. What's the difference? Because a fortress, if you look at your house as a fortress, you spend all your energy and resources to protect it from intruders, from invasions, to protect your privacy, even more so today in our Big Brother time that everything is, looking what you do and following you and all that stuff. But what's the difference between treating your physical environment as a temple? That's kind of what we're going into that right now. So the question is, if we treat your house as the fortress, what is the real treasure we're protecting? Okay, that's really what you ask. Like if you're protecting the fortress, obviously you're protecting something in this fortress, which are physical things. Your jewelry, your furniture, your plasma TV, blah, blah, blah. All those things, right? That's kind of the thing. Now, if you look at, again, if we look at the majority of our civilization, people invest so much time in security, insurance, etc. until they really forget for what purpose they actually accumulate those things. They're investing just to accumulate. And many times, if you look at newspapers, you read there's like people who died and they left behind them like tons of stuff, and they've been accumulating so much of that stuff and insuring and all those things, and then they left this reality and they left all those things. And how many of them actually spend the time to actually look at all that stuff and say, what purpose am I really accumulating on these things? What's the purpose for what? Right? That's kind of the question. So if we follow, like we said, the Kabbalah statement, then our house...
I'm just checking too if you put cold. Is it cold?
No, it's good. You're
Okay.
cold. No. So if you look at our house as the temple, then that makes us if we live in the temple, who are we?
We're the priestess.
Exactly. We're the priests and the priestesses. We're the Kohanim. Now, what's the attribute of the priest? The priest is that person who is connecting between the realities. And I'm not talking about, let's put away, for example, those sacrifices that are so prominent in many cultures in doing all those things. But if you really look at an energetic aspect, what is a priest? The priest is doing, they are connecting between realities. And there's a certain characteristic to the person of the priest. And if we understand how it works, we can be more effective priests and priestesses in our own reality. Our reality can become more sacred when we learn how to remove the impurities of this reality. Because as long as we're in physical realities, there will always be impurities. It's not something that we can eliminate, but we can minimize and we can overcome. What we call the transmutation. That's what we do here. To transmute energies all the time.
It's
In
like
a way,
a
they're...
priest,
Huh? Yes?
like a priest or priestess, they connect the higher reality to the lower reality by senses that are not physical.
Yes.
So you would have to clean out the physical in order to have that space to receive those extrasensory.
Yeah, exactly.
Feng Shui.
Feng Shui is one of them, yeah. And of course,
Minimalist too.
minimalist,
There's
but
moving.
the point is really the awareness. What kind of awareness we are cultivating, and because that will be also the awareness we will inject into the physical things that we surround ourselves and we produce. Because the most important things of us in this reality is what are we producing. What we produce is the result of what we desire. Because we wake up, like we said, we speak about all the time, when we wake up in the morning, we have something that drives us to do something because we want something. So as a result, we produce something. It can be something very selfish, it should be just about ourselves. We can produce something that will benefit others. That's the essence of the priest. The priests, they are serving. They are the servers of source. They're doing the work with the understanding that what they do, because of course they took some kind of responsibility on themselves to serve the greater good. So there's an element of servitude.
It's similar to Shaliach Tzibur of today, just there are people that they give up on work and physical food, and community actually supporting that person, and that person doing the job sometimes for all.
Yeah,
I mean,
but we're not here.
Similar to priest, right?
Yes, but thank you for mentioning, because the whole idea of being a priest, it doesn't mean we don't work, because if you take the story of the Baal HaSulam, the Rav Ashlag, he passed in the 50s, 1950s, I think, something around that time. But when he was teaching, and if you study, he translated the Zohar. He's a very, very high soul. All of his students, he made it a condition for each and every one of them to work in physical labor. Even some of them came from very rich families, said you have to go and work.
Yes.
Because being in physical,
send them to paint,
to work in print, to do in construction, all kind of works, because we have to be involved in physical reality. It's not about I'm a priest, so I'm not, doing physical things. No, you have to do some physical things.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to work in the garbage. Whatever physical work you do, it needs to have some kind of contact to physical reality. You cannot detach yourself and let the community support you. That's not the idea. You do work, and people can support you.
I'm
but
talking about rabbis,
I'm not talking about rabbis. We're not rabbis. No one of us is a rabbi. No. We are the priests. We are the producers. So our interaction, or what we call even a friction, it's a very important aspect of what we do. The interaction with people in the community and the work that we do, because it's very easy. I tell you from my experience, you can go so deep in the study, completely detach yourself from society. But that's not the right way. The Kabbalist way, you don't go and you hide in a cave and just become an enlightened person. That's not the way you do it. In Kabbalah, you learn that stuff so you can give it to the people. You go to the mountain like Moses, so you bring it down so you can share with the people. That's really the work we do. You're not to go up and disappear on the mountain.
Yeah, our teacher, the Rav Berg, the example, when he started Kabbalah study in Jerusalem, he had only 10 students, and he was happy about this, small. And then for some, reason that in Israel, religious Jews started to harm him. So they moved to LA, and they opened a very small study group. And then, the message came, no, you have to grow, you have to do. And then they bought church, old church, like 400, 500 people will fit there, from 10 students to, and he was scared. He used to say, oh my God, what we are doing? But this is the Kabbalah saying, you just do it, they will come, So this is the way. Today they teach Kabbalah all over the world. They have centers all over the world.
Yeah. The Rav Berg is my first Kabbalah teacher, so everything
that's why I imagine
the translation of the Zohar is taken to the Kabbalah Center, so we have the merit to teach it in English, because in Hebrew it was translated by the Rav Ashlag.
Right, his teacher.
So would you say that priests and priestesses are also facilitators?
Yes. Facilitators of transmitting energy into physicality, of manifesting. But like we said, the really important aspect we're examining, constantly talking about, is our awareness and our ratzon, our desire to receive. For what purpose are we doing that? Okay? Now, what we want to examine is how much do we invest in true fulfillment from the endless, or connection to the source. If we don't invest in it, we seek fulfillment from the wrong places, from the wrong sources, because we all want fulfillment. We're looking for that connection because that's the built-in mechanism of our existence. The question is, are we looking for the fulfillment from the right places or the wrong places? Like I said, the example of a very famous spiritual leader from LA, that he was a drug dealer, because inside of him there was a desire to distribute some kind of fulfillment to people. He was using drugs, but then he transmitted that to distributing wisdom. So that's an example how we identify that will and reason the right means to receive it for ourselves and also share with others. So that's one example. So we want to see what's the ratio between those two, and do we act as priests or as sort of like salesmen of commodities in this reality, which is nothing wrong to be a salesman, but again, always see that from a higher perspective. Whether you're selling shoes or you're selling whatever it is, there's nothing. Any profession is sacred. Even if you. Whoa.
Hello.
I think we are. Somebody doesn't want us.
That's all over the town.
Wow.
By the way.
Wow, that's weird.
But your phone is still. I put the
No, it's.
flashlight.
put, you can put, hold on, I have
We don't
flashlight.
have electricity.
Oh yeah, there's flashlight. Hold on, let me put my flashlight too.
We have no electricity, so we
can't
disconnect
have it?
for.
Okay, guys, excuse me. I think we are have an electric shortage, so that's very interesting that is actually happening right
the
now.
entire town is out,
Wow.
or the entire street.
No, it turned off.
Let me see. I don't know if it's going to be good enough.
We don't have any candles, huh?
No.
No.
Wow.
I suggest to. Is it live?
Check the box.
The box?
Yeah.
Because there is light. There is outside light.
No, but
Excuse us, guys. The electricity went off suddenly.
I wonder who's
Okay,
behind
Mera,
this.
do you want to sing again, maybe? We're checking the electricity box, but if we don't have light, we can try on that this way,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Kind of more mysterious and romantic, I would say.
Romantic. Good thing you're back.
Yeah, right. Yes.
No, it's the street.
Well, Baruch, we can try continue this way, even though there is not so much light. We can still listen to the class, you know.
Yeah.
True.
As long as you can read and all.
He can read actually.
Yeah.
Baruch, he can continue. We'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
there is a light here.
Is there anybody online still?
2 people.
Yeah. Okay.
We are here, guys.
All right. So we're back.
You don't need that.
We will not. No, I need to for reading. Let's pray that it's gonna come back as soon as possible. All right. So
No, it's not good. זה מסנוור את
If I put it like
מהצד
that?
השני. תחזיק מהיד הזאת, תחזיק.
if I do like that, it's okay.
Yeah, it's better.
So. So again, some of the questions I want to ask ourselves: do we inject content, intention, and energy into what we do? We gave the example of a person. You can give the same recipe, the same ingredients to 2 different chefs, and the food will taste completely different because it depends on what kind of energy they're injecting into physical matter. That's a very simple example, and that pertains to all the work that we do in this reality. Any job, any work. Now, some of the Zohar is talking about what are the indications of lack of spiritual fulfillment that the person may have in their lives is how much money they spend on physical things. Like the more we spend money to get more physical things, it means the less fulfillment we have in reality. There's nothing wrong to buy beautiful clothes, etc. But if that's all we do, we're just looking for, like again, we live in a consumer-based culture. And the interesting thing of if you define consumer is the desire to receive, to take, consume, take. And as opposed to a producer-based culture, there is more balance between the two, and the less we don't create objects or products that have a very low, very short lifespan. Like they design, for example, the smartphones to a very short lifespan so they can be replaced, so people can buy more, so they can continue the cycle of making money from that. So that's one example. Now in our culture, people are generally, again, I'm not speaking about everybody, but if you look at generally, people are programmed to believe that the more the money they spend, the more meaning of value they have in their lives. This is how many people, unfortunately, again, this is like very, the sad part of social programming, people find the value by what kind of objects they're accumulating and on their ability, what they call maintaining their lifestyle. So they can have a certain amount of vacations, they have a certain model of a car, etc., etc. That's how people evaluate themselves. Like their net worth, many times, that's another terminology. Now, if we don't take charge of our role as the high priest or priestess of our reality, we are basically missed the whole point of injecting this energy, what we call the energy of magic, into reality. Now magic, again, the word magic can be like very tricky, because magic, maybe you can use the word wonder or some power of intention. And if we don't understand this principle, we're just busy with consuming stuff, we're missing the whole point of being in this reality, to be the magicians. Abracadabra, remember? Mm-hmm. We create what we speak. Now, we spoke about the Rav Ashlag and the... Now, before I continue, I want to read you a little story from... we have actually an extra book in this period of time. It's called Sifra Tetzave. Now, Sifra Tetzave, it means... Sifra means a book, but also means illumination. Tzniuta means concealment. This is a very short book that is actually not related directly to the Torah, but it's actually a short book that talks about some very, very, very big concealed secrets. It's very hard to understand, but there's one aspect that I would like to share with you, which is a very beautiful story. I'm going to read it first of all in Aramaic, and then I'm going to go into the translation. מתלה לברנש דהבה דיורי בעיני טורין, ולה ידע בדיורי מתה. זרע חיטין ואכיל חיטי בגופייהו, יום אחד על למתה. הקריבו לי נהמה טבע, אמר ההוא ברנש דנה למה, אמרו נהמה הוא למיכל, אבל אכל וטעם לחדה לחיכי, אמר וממה התאבד דה, אמרו מחיטין, לבטר הקריבו לי גריצין דלישין במשחה, טעם מיני הוא אמר ואילן ממה התאבדו, אמרו מחיטין, לבטר הקריבו לי טריקי מלכין דלישין בדובשה ומשחה, אמר ואילן ממה התאבדו, אמרו מחיטין, אמר ודאי ענה מערי, oops. How do you put the light on? Sorry.
Oh, here I have.
We this class is concealed, guys.
It's very concealed, yeah.
We don't have electricity.
Totally
we are just following the portion of this week. Only concealed. Just
revealing light in the darkness. Literally, yeah.
Totally.
אמר ומחיטין לבטר הקריבו לי טריקי מלכין דלישין בדובשה ומשחה. אמר ואילן ממה התאבדו, אמר ומחיטין. אמר ודאי ענה מערי דכל אילן, דענה אכיל עיקרה, דכל אילן דאי הוא חיטה. בגין ההוא דעתה מעידוני עלמה, לה ידע והתאבדו מיני. כך מן דנקית כללה ולה ידע בכל הוא עידונין, דמהניין דנפקין מההוא כללה. Now, before I read, I want to read you from the synopsis. Rabbi Shimon says that the concealed book, which we are reading from, Sifra Tetzave, consists of 5 chapters, contained in a great chamber that filled the entire earth. However, only one who has entered wisdom and come out from it in peace can see the entire wisdom in this book. He tells a parable that we just read when I translate to illustrate this point about one who grasps the generality of wisdom but does not know the delights and delicacies that derive from that generality. So let's read the translation of this verse. This is likened to a person who lived in the mountains, and this person was not acquainted with the city inhabitants. He lived far away. He sowed wheat, and then he ate the wheat just as it was. One day he came to the city, where he was served with good bread. That person said, "What is this?" They answered him, "This is bread to be eaten." He ate, and it was delicious to his palate. He said, "What is this made from?" They said, "This is made from wheat." Afterwards they served him cookies mixed with oil. He tasted them and asked, "And what are these made from?" They answered, "From wheat." Afterwards they offered him food fit for kings, kneaded with oil and honey. He said, "What are these made from?" They told him, "From wheat." He said, "I certainly have all this because I eat the essence of all of this, which is wheat." Because of this opinion, he did not learn how to make all these delicacies, and he did not know of the delights of the world. Thus, they were lost to him. It is also with one who grasps the generality of wisdom, but does not know the delights and the delicacies that derive from that generality. This is really the essence of the secret book of secrets. It's very profound wisdom. So I want to ask you, first of all, what is your understanding? What is this about? What is the message here?
Is that like alchemy of what you can do with what you have?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that requires work beyond just the basic elements.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Anybody else?
Maybe curiosity of creating more of, because you can just eat the wheat as is, and after a while be tired of it and be curious. Well, maybe there's other things I can do with it, and start experimenting. So that curiosity to expand our knowledge, maybe. Or
Thank you. You said actually important word, curiosity, which is actually, you can say also wonder.
Wonder, yeah.
Francis Bacon, the English thinker, he used to say, wonder is the seed of knowledge, which is a beautiful way to understand that. Basically, wonder in Hebrew is pele. Pele is also the word, the letters of Aleph. Pele means that we look in this reality that there is basic or some kind of source that permeates into this reality, but there's so many expressions, there's so many recipes from which we create in this reality. And for that, we need to have the element of wonder. There is not just one way to do it, but there is attribute, of course. It's still wheat, like as example in this parable, but there's so many different expressions that we can use that. And that's why we don't, all of us, we do the same work. We do different lines of work, we have different expressions, and the more we are able to connect to our truthful talents and roles in this reality, we derive pleasure from it, first of all, because we're here to enjoy, but also we can share it with others that they will enjoy it, what we do. So that's a beautiful, beautiful parable.
Can you repeat it again? Wonder is the seed of
knowledge by Francis Bacon. That was used to be on my refrigerator for many years. It's a beautiful quote. So let's continue.
It's still on the fridge.
It is still on the fridge. Right. Thank you,
But
Maya.
you don't look at that anymore, I guess.
I look what's inside the fridge now, not what outside. I stopped looking on the outside of the fridge. So I'm talking about talents. Why is that so important? The Baal Shem Tov, again, he was one of the greatest Kabbalists and teachers of wisdom, in Kabbalistic wisdom. He said, they asked him, when will the Messiah will come? Now, when we talk about the Messiah, it's not a person. We know that Messiah is an era.
state of being.
It's an era, it's a state of being. But it's a state of being, first of all, that it has to be.
Not just for...
But it starts with our own state of being. And what he said, that the Messiah will come when everybody will do what they came here to do. Which means if you came here to be an artist, you do your job as an artist. So you came here to be a writer, or a chef, or an engineer, or a lawyer, whatever it is that you came here to do, for the sake of, first of all, you enjoy it, but also for the sake of others, to bring goodness to the world. That's when the Messiah comes. When each and every one of us were tuned to our talents, and we use them for the greatest good. That's basically when the Messiah will come, because Messiah, like you said, the Savior, as some teachings they teach, they perceive that there's going to be some kind of outside person that will come and will save humanity. That is completely in opposite from the teaching of Kabbalah. Because if there is an external source that you rely on to bring redemption to you, that you make that person your God. That makes you a slave. So that's completely against the teachings of Kabbalah. That the Savior is within us. So the word Mashiach, it's something that we are working to bring into ourselves. So the more of us we embody that, that's how we really shift the planet. That's the nature of it. That's the attribute of it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the kids being raised today in Hollywood movies that there is this, Superman or woman that's saving them and the world.
Unfortunately,
and yes, and all people just,
It's happening in politics all the time.
Yes.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
also there's
So
another
is the president, good or bad, they're going to save us or they're going to destroy us. All this, it's all the time.
But there are other forms of media and entertainment that actually they show that, like films like Harry Potter, which I'm going to talk about, which is very important, because the movie like Harry Potter, based on the book that came out, I think around the year 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about Harry Potter. It became the second selling book after the Bible. It's the most translated book and most published book on the planet. If you think about it, why is that? Think about it. What's the reason? If you really look into the depth of it, is because we all want...
Mimicking reality almost.
Excuse me?
Mimicking reality, but it incorporates magic.
It's actually raising reality by using magic. It's a whole generation of children was raised on Harry Potter. If you talk about what some people call the millennials, these are those kids who were born around the turn of the millennium. Mm-hmm. I call them actually the Harry Potter generation, because these are the kids that were raised on Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. So these are the kids right now, they are like in their early 20s or like late teens, something like that. And if you're raised on this understanding that magic is really the most important ingredient in this reality, if you look at amazing pieces of art, it's not about how, it's how tedious they can mimic physical reality, because anybody can copy photos. Anybody can mimic physical reality, make this really extravagant renderings that mimic reality. It's not about that. It's about how you put that magical element into that. That's what it's about. So this reminder that we're so fortunate to have J.K. Rowling that's creating this amazing property of narrative to this humanity, to remind us why Harry Potter became such a great success, because it became a reminder for us of that element of magic into this reality.
It also shows the orphanage boy, poor with no parents, that he got disabilities, the magic abilities. So it's not about this some rich boy that has everything and doing nothing. He actually creates from nothing something.
Exactly.
Yeah, no matter what the world told him about himself and his upbringing, he still had to believe in himself to bring that power out. And he ended up being more powerful than the others.
Yeah.
And also, no matter how much his foster family tried to suppress his abilities, he couldn't hide it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's the message. The light is going to be on. Even the other force going to try to always, put it down.
Yep.
But that's the message here.
Yep. Thank you. Now, the Zohar talks about some of the accessories of the priest that they use in the temple, which is the oil and the lamp. Now, the word oil in Hebrew is shemen. Oh, thank you. The light.
It's a Hanukkah miracle.
We talk about the light, huh? Good timing.
Thank you, lad.
Thank you. Harry Potter, thank you, everyone.
Harry Potter, see magic. Yeah?
Thank you. So it works. Thank you. So the word Mashiach in Hebrew, like we said, Messiah, it also comes from the word limshoach. It means to anoint.
Oh yeah.
To anoint, it comes from the same word of Mashiach, where anointing. So the oil is a very, very important aspect of that. Now, when you talk about shemen in Hebrew, the oil, it's a parable to our soul. So let's talk about the lamp. What are the different attributes of the lamp?
Shemen like neshama.
Yes.
The same
Yeah.
levels.
Neshama and shemen. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, the production of the oil is what we call, and there's particularly talking about olive oil. The olive oil is called shemen zayit in Hebrew. Now, the olive oil is likened to what we call or the chokhmah, which means light of wisdom, illumination of wisdom, which is an illumination, which is the attribute of the candle that illuminates. So we can become that source of illumination. Now, there are different aspects, of that we want to understand how that pertains to us and how we can expand that. Is it the heater is on now?
No.
Yeah. So when we talk about the production of the olive oil, is a parable of producing our own light, and we spoke about the nature of the olive oil. That olives are the most bitter fruit that is out there. It's a fruit because it grows on the tree, but it's very bitter. And how do we produce the oil? We have to beat the heck out of it
Yes.
to produce the oil. So we are likened to the olives because either the universe is gonna beat the shit out of us, excuse me for the language, or we're going to produce it on our own because we came here to produce some kind of oil that will illuminate the lamp. Okay? So either the universe is gonna crush us down, or we're gonna do it on our own by implementing the wisdom of the Torah. So we can choose. Nevertheless, we came here to produce that oil because we're humans, we're producers. Okay? That's why we're not rocks, we're not plants, we're not animals. Okay? So that's where we're likened to the oil. So we are, like I said, we came here to produce our own light of wisdom, and that is in complete contradiction to the idea of the Savior, like we said. Because if we're producing our own light, we're producing our own Messiah, our own shaman. We're anointing our own oil. And that's why it's important to do it ourselves. We have to do the effort ourselves. That's why the principle of bread of shame, that we came here not to receive everything. So we said to the light, no, let us produce, let us earn the merit to do it, to produce it on our own. That's what it's against the idea of what they call the savor in some teachings. So let's talk about the candle, the different aspects of the candle, because there are 3 parts that I would like to talk about. Okay. So first of all, we have the body of the candle, okay? Then we have the wick, and then we have the flame. So each one of them, of course, we have the regular names, which
Remember you talked about this a few months ago.
Okay, so let's talk about it again. That's the candle, or that's the oil. Then we have the wick, and then we have the flame. Now let's talk about the spiritual, or like the energetic, or the codes, what each one of them represents, okay? So the candle or the oil are what we call the vessel, okay? How much oil we're holding, how much oil we're producing, okay? How long the candle will light is depending on how much oil it has. So the oil represents the vessel, okay? That's the vessel. Okay? The wick. What is the wick? What do you think is the wick?
Forgot.
It's our ratzon.
Desire.
Desire. That's the ratzon, or desire. Desire. And the flame?
It's the source, the light,
Is the illumination.
illumination.
It's what are we actually illuminating outwards. Okay? It's the illumination.
So sometimes we'll have like a big vessel, but not enough desire.
Exactly.
The wick is short, so then it.
Thank you,
illuminates
Mera. Beautiful. You see, this is exactly what we're talking about, because this is the connection between the 2 realities, the ratzon. Because
Sometimes the wick is too long, but there's not enough oil.
yeah,
So it will. So it needs to be like we need to be
balanced. We have to be
not
balanced. Yeah. Because we learn Kabbalah, the person cannot give something they don't have. So in order for us to have, we need to cultivate the desire to receive. But we receive for the sake of sharing. That's the flame. We always use about the parable of the flame, that a flame does not lose from the light by illuminating other candles. See, that's the most beautiful analogy. That's why human being is likened to a candle, ner. Now in Hebrew, the word ner is also very, very important word, because ner is an acronym. There's a couple of acronyms. Ner is nachat ruach, which means nachat ruach is we are bringing pleasure to source. Nachat means a pleasure or satisfaction, or
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. We're kind of causing, or we're bringing. It's like you have a child, and you have a very successful and very accomplished child. So you have this sense of you're so happy with your child, because your child is really, they're fulfilling themselves, they're doing great, they're making effort in the world. So that's why we're producing, as human beings, is the pleasure to the source. Like we know that source wants to give more than we can receive. Like the cow wants to give more than the calf can handle from the milk. So it's depending on us, how much we're constantly growing our vessels so we can receive more from the source. But also ner is also an acronym of neshama veruach, or nefesh and ruach, which is different aspects of the soul. Okay? Now, like we said about the temple, it's not just about us building our temple, okay? but also to act as priest in our reality. Now, when we talk about the priest, one of the most important qualities of a priest is the ability of mercy, right column, which means the desire to share. Because we know that if we want to be more like light or like the source, the nature of the source is to illuminate, is to share. So the more we liken ourselves to source by sharing, the more we become closer to source. Okay? And very important, like we spoke about abracadabra, is we need to be always reminded about the power of the words that we're using. What kind of words we're telling ourselves, and what of conversation we're having with others. Okay? Okay, we're 9, so we have good with time. So, okay, we spoke about abracadabra.
You have a big desire.
I want to give my teacher spoke about a great example of the impossible, or what seems to be impossible. If you look at the sequoia trees in Sequoia Park, they're like the tallest trees in America. They're like hundreds.
Redwoods.
Huh?
They're like a redwood. In fact, they're the biggest redwood.
The redwoods. So they're like hundreds, like 400 or something feet tall, very high. So if you look at trees, if you observe them, have you ever thought how much power it takes to take the water from the bottom of the tree all the way to the top? I mean, think about it. It goes against gravity. What kind of power the tree is using to lift up all this water? It looks completely impossible, because the tree also have sort of like veins that transmit liquids. But in order for the tree to transmit these liquids, you cannot have bubbles. So when you have a bubble, you break the pressure, and everything it breaks. So those bubbles are like what we have the doubts in our lives, that they break the pressure, and we cannot bring up all that desires, all the fulfillment we want to desire, or we can create in this reality. These are like the air bubbles, so to speak. That's a great example how with our will, our ratzon, we go against gravity. Because sometimes, especially when we spoke about this month of the concealment, when we cultivate the desire, it doesn't mean that we know necessarily how it's going to happen. Nobody guarantees us that it's going to happen. How do you know it's going to happen? But something inside of you, you have the desire. But you operate completely in darkness, like we had like a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Complete darkness, you have no idea how it's going to be. Nevertheless, in this month, even may be more happy because you don't see the fulfillment. What does it take to achieve that? How do we do that?
Perseverance and creativity.
Yes, but even more, another word that we use a lot, perseverance and create. Huh? Yes,
Faith.
yes, emunah. Amen. Amen, that's the power. That emunah, we cannot rely on our physical senses. You don't see that with your eyes, but there's something inside of us. It's my mother again?
No.
No?
Your aunt. What's happened to your family?
They want to see if you came in peace from Israel.
No, Osnat online, so.
Osnat.
I'm here, Osnat.
Okay. Lishkoach, shachach. Shachach is from the word of choshech, darkness. When we forget.
She's keep calling.
Me, אמא שלי?
No, Yana. Your aunt.
So this week
She's
is our.
persistent.
You're online.
So this week is our opportunity to strengthen our direct connection to the source, based on our emunah, not by what we may see with our eyes. Because when we cultivate a desire and to recalibrate what we came here to do, because there may be points in our lives that it looks completely. Are you on a? Okay.
I'm writing to Osnat.
So to strengthen our faith and hope, it's because we may not see how things are unfolding. It's looks completely impossible. That's when the magic comes into play. It starts with our awareness when we connect to that. Okay? Now, I want to talk about our ownership in this reality. What we do, what we really own in this reality. So what do we really own? Because we know we may have different physical possessions, we have different titles, we have all kind of things that we think we own. But what we learn in Kabbalah, that the only thing that we own is the things that we do, our deeds. That's the only thing we own. Not the real estate, not the cars, not the fancy clothes, whatever it is in this physical realm, not even the titles.
Not even our bodies.
Not even our bodies. We don't own anything. The only thing we own is what we do, actually, what we produce. What's the outcome that we're producing in this reality. So there is in a way there are two opposite forces that operate always with us. One of them, the force or the path, is to walk in the path of the truth. Okay, that's one path. The second force is our selfish inclinations. We want to attain physical gains. We want to attain honor, recognition, respect, etc. Now, those forces, two forces, or what we may call as duality, they create friction, constant friction. But this friction is very important. Why it's important? Because we want to learn how we can make the connection, like letzavot, how we make the connection between these two forces, so we can take them and we can produce a positive outcome from them. Like a lot of, if you look at a lot of amazing artists in our history, they created amazing pieces of art out of suffering. It doesn't mean that we have to suffer to create great art. We can still do things, we can challenge ourselves, and we don't have to bring on ourselves chaos and disaster so we can become great artists. It's not necessary, unless we really choose to. That's one way to do it. But the friction is an element that is part of how this reality is based. Does it make sense?
Sometimes the pain, I don't know how to say, lezakech.
It purifies, yeah.
Purifies
Zach, yeah.
People, you know. It's not always bad if the person not becomes
good on their own.
Victim of his pain, you know. Then you go to zihuk.
Purification.
Yeah. Right?
Sometimes it's also
And
an
then you
inspiration.
create more and more, I mean, yeah. I'm talking more art-wise. More artists, you know, we know in history that it came through suffering.
Yeah.
But they still continue create and do art and
Mhm.
then
Poetry also.
Transmuting.
transmuting.
Yeah.
Transmuting. It's like an alchemy. Even though it can be painful, but it's still alchemy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the meaning of that, to remember, you know, even during the pain and chaos, stay still and trust and have faith on the process.
Yeah.
I guess something like that.
So when we talk about what we're producing or the deeds, there's a term in Kabbalah called Gomel Chesed. This is the only thing that we actually own is Gomel Chesed. Gomel Chesed means is a benefactor, is a producer of goodness in this reality, of mercy. Chesed is mercy, it's compassion. So what we really own is what we are inflicting, the good that we inflict on others.
Mitzvot, or it's not?
Gomel
mitzvot?
Chesed. Gomel Chesed means
Not the same?
Gomel means no, it's not. Mitzvot is one of the ways to do that, but we say for that attribute. In the same Kabbalah, there's two kinds of mitzvot. One type is between a person to their environment. Work is between us and other people. It's more important than what between us and the environment. Of course, the environment is important, but relationship to other people is the most important thing. That's why we always find those challenges with our families, and we say, like, why I was born in this family? Why I have this sibling, this parent, etc. There is a reason for that. If we know how to work with that, then we can transmute.
And then you don't have to stuck with the family.
It's not about stuck, but actually how you manifest that Gomel Chesed, that attribute of mercy, even when you have this whatever families you say it's not to my liking, but we still chose. Our soul has chosen to be born in this family from a reason. It's not by coincidence. Yeah. So the forces of nature, what happens is like the way the system is designed, the forces of nature pull us to attain more of them, of those physical things, and then we can fall into a delusion that these are the things that bring us false security. Okay, we spoke about, so kind of going deeper into that. So these forces actually bring us back to return into true connection to source and feel this inner friction, which may result in purifying more of the inner, what we call the inner gold. I'm going to explain what I mean. So we are like in this reality, like those people who take raw gold, and we are removing all the impurities to reveal the real gold. So those frictions that we have inside, those inner frictions, they're not a bad thing, because this is the process of purification. So we can see, oh, I have this, but I don't have this. So it gives the opportunities to evaluate and like, you know, when they were used to when the filter, the gold, when they found from the rivers, they had this screen. They would filter to get the gold. So this process of inner friction is not a bad thing. So don't expect this to be just in constant
Pure gold all the time.
Yeah, pure gold and pure bliss. In this physical reality, it's always a process of friction. It's not a bad thing. Just make sure you understand it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean to be in chaos to have a split personality. That's what I'm talking about. But when those things arise, even more so when you progress on the path, you start to see more of the impurities. So when you start to see more of them, you have more opportunity to transmute those things in a reality. Does it make sense?
Yeah, but when you see that you're looking for gold in the midst of all this chaos and then you keep doing this even though you see all the garbage and everything. But you have a mission. So it's different than someone just sees the dark, sees the garbage. But when the mission is higher, then even though we know, keep continue because I'm looking for gold. I'm looking for really pick up these good things.
And you need to have faith.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
faith. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, that's
Otherwise,
faith. Well, Mount Shasta. It's lots of gold here.
Yeah, so we talk about the impurities, so I want to go into a little bit of a deeper step. Before we go to the Zohar, I want to talk about the klipot. Klipot is a very important term in Kabbalah. Klipot means shells. Now let's talk about a little bit what is the definition, why the klipot are important. Because the klipot are considered in certain ways and very negative things, because they're sucking the energy of the essence. But they have a purpose in creation. So let's talk about the klipot.
What is the translation?
Klipot, it's shells.
Shell?
Shell. Klipa means a shell.
Oh, okay.
It's more like a
filling
shell. Klipa means a shell that covers the fruit.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So klipa is a shell. Now, so the first question is where the system of it's called system of impurities of defilement, where it's coming from. And the other question is why do we need the shells from? Okay, that's really what it's about. Because if you look about those impurities in this reality, why it's needed? Like, let's get rid of it. Why it was created from the first place? That's kind of what we want to understand. There's a purpose to that. It's a very important purpose.
So we
Okay?
can evolve consciously.
Yes, but there's a mechanism how to do that. So, defilement and impurities. This reality was created so we can receive the pleasures. So, like we said, Source was to give us pleasures that were beyond what we can even imagine. Like we talk in the Zohar, we talk about sexual orgasm, for example. It says like the light that Source wants to give us, like take sexual orgasm and multiply it 60 times. It's beyond, you know? It's not like it's beyond physical. It's a very high level of pleasure.
Concept fulfillment.
So imagine people are so like looking so much for the physical pleasure, they're missing the whole thing. Not that we're not here to enjoy them, but there's so much more beyond that physical pleasure. So, in this reality, it was created so we can create it as vessels, like we said, so we can receive the blessings and fulfillment, receive the light. Okay. So, in order for us to receive the light, what we need to have is like we said, a desire to receive the light. Because if we don't have the desire, we don't have a vessel, we cannot receive it. There is no container, there is no receiver. Source wants to give you, but if you don't know what to receive, it cannot give it to you. It might pass next to your eyes, you're not going to recognize that. Like if I give a diamond to my dog, what will they do with the diamond, right?
Chewing it.
They will chew it.
The one thing maybe they can break.
Yeah.
Like we said, Matov Yalom LaKelev, what's good diamond to the dog, what are good the books you put on the camel. Like if you take like very precious books of wisdom, you put it on the camel, let it carry, will the camel appreciate what kind of, no, it does not. So what I'm saying is like us, we don't have the appreciation of these blessings, we cannot receive them. Yeah. It means nothing to us. So the wisdom is to cultivate this desire, okay? That's how the system is designed. So, like we said, we need to cultivate the desire to enjoy these pleasures. Now, the system of the klipot, or the defilements, or the shells, what we call, it was created in order for us to build the vessel to receive these blessings. So, it kind of doesn't make sense, or it sounds kind of
Can you repeat that?
The system of the klipot was created so we can build a vessel. In other words,
desire.
Is that
Vessel is desire.
But let's see how it works. It is. So, but the klipot, the shells, are the mechanism that allows us to actually build the desire. because they are what covers the fruit, the essence. Okay?
It's like the children's game that when one is hiding and the other kids need to find them, and when they find them, they have so much joy and they're happy. That's this kind of game. It's like, okay, this is not going to be a game if the one child not going to hide.
Right.
You're going to say, I'm here, so there is no game. He must hide, like a creator is hiding these gifts
Hide and
for
seek.
us,
Yeah.
hide and seek.
To reveal it, yeah.
Because the searching has to be part of the fun,
Yeah.
not just finding it out.
Right.
Because people suffer because of the searching. They say, I'm going to be happy only when I'm going to find it. No, be happy when you're searching. That's the message. I understand.
Yeah, but yes, exactly. So let's give an example for how we can use the shells in a positive way. Let's take a person who have a very amazing talent for leadership. A person is a natural born leader, like they know how to lead people, okay? Now, this person can use it for be a great leader. A great leader, they understand that they're serving others. So they're using their gifts to lead people to a better society, better future, etc. That's a positive example. Now take a negative example of a leader. They use their leadership to control others, to abuse them, and to become corrupt. But nevertheless, they still have the ability to be a great leader, okay? Now, even when a person, here's the thing, like even when a person uses their talents for a negative way, the person increases their talents. In other words, even that person decided they know that they have the skills of being leader, so decided to follow the path of being selfish. Even if they follow their path, what they do, they're actually feeding their klipot. They're feeding their shells, but as a result, they're actually increasing the talent, which is a great thing. So they actually, in that case, there is a good process. Now I'll go deeper in that. So what happens is when, so there's a process of development. It goes to the negative direction, but nevertheless there is development.
So
okay?
If the leader is evil, so it's going to be more evil leader?
He can be more leader, but
Because
actually...
he's practicing leadership, even though it's negative leadership, he's practicing being a leader.
Yeah.
So he's going to be even more evil.
He can be more evil, he or she can be more evil, but nevertheless, they're increasing their talents in leadership in a negative way. Like we said, like there was a person who was equally as powerful as Moses, Bilam. But he was from the dark side. But he was so powerful, the same level of Moses. Okay? So he was feeding a very negative force. But it's not something negative if you know how to understand the mechanism behind it.
It's like the terrorism we have in the world. Once it was only in Israel, today it's all over the world. They grow. These forces are growing and growing because once only Israel used to suffer from, terrorism attacks and everything, and then boom, the twins went off in New York, and then it's all over the world. They become bigger, stronger, because their leadership and their unity is growing in a negative way. So it's a good example.
Yeah. So if you understand, if the shell covers the fruit, but what happens is the shell protects the fruit until the fruit ripens, and in some point, the shell will be the fruit itself, because everybody, doesn't matter what path they follow, even if they follow the most negative path, eventually they will have to come to the fruit. You understand? So if we have a talent, whatever the talent is, and we use that in the most negative way, we keep using and developing the talent, eventually we're going to come to the essence of it. It may take us many lifetimes, maybe have to be crushed some point, because eventually there will be a ripening process. It will ripen eventually.
And what's the ripening?
The ripening is that you actually use this talent for the goodness. It must have, that's the oil you came to produce. The oil is within you. Okay? So you can keep cultivating those skills in a negative way, but nevertheless you're still cultivating them. Eventually you will transmute, because that's the essence of our creation. So if you are a banker and you are so good with finances, but using your ability with money for a very selfish way, you can enhance your abilities and become very corrupt. But eventually you will come back until you get that you're here to understand how to use the energy of money for the goodness of others.
I don't want to even think how many lifetimes this person needs to suffer for cultivate and one day to get it. So
yeah, see, think about some of the most evil people that became evil leaders on this planet. They were very powerful leaders. And look how they all ended eventually. And maybe they are born and they're still continuing the evil, but eventually they will ripen. So we don't want to wait until we're point to we're crushed. We want to awaken this understanding in this lifetime with our skills, so we can recalibrate them and understand that we're here to use those skills for the sacredness of goodness. Whether we're making films, to spread terror, to spread negative ideas, or spreading films and stories to inspire others. That's another example. Whatever we do.
Yeah, we had a student once in the class in Kabbalah Center that he was that person, very negative, stealing.
In the movie business?
It doesn't matter which business. And then he was hearing this study from the Zohar, and he stopped immediately. He said, I'm going to come back so many times in reincarnation. I'm going to suffer more and more every time. No, I'm done now. He just transformed into that.
It's a moment.
That.
Yeah.
In the middle of class, we were like, ooh. Yeah, start cheering and this, and get shaved and come in like shining.
Nice.
Crazy.
Yeah. So
Because of that, it was so scary.
Remember we spoke about it last week. What's the highest form of charity in this reality? Remember we spoke about
this?
To
transform
the evil people to positive people. That's the highest form of charity.
In front of our eyes.
Yes, it's an amazing process. It's a beautiful process.
Yeah.
Because that's the point that the shells comes off.
It's
the shell surrenders to the essence.
It's one of the examples that sometimes you need to scare this kind of person to say the truth.
Sometimes they're not scared. They just keep on going with, like we say, the head in the wall. Go inside into the wall. And they end up in very tragical ways, like Saddam Hussein and other leaders that end up in very bad ending. And they thought that they had it all. They were very powerful leaders. So that's a great example.
It's also happened to me. I mean, I wasn't the evil person, but it happened to me in the first studies of like 17 years ago when I heard this. So when I wasn't happy with my life and the situation, I said, what? This is going to happen again and again? I just did some action to stop that lifetime, stop that, the situation I used to live.
Yeah.
Because I understand that, because I used to say, okay, probably I'll die and that's it, I'm going to done with this life. And then I said, no. If I'm not going to do something about this now,
Come back.
It's not just I will come back, I will suffer even more. So the other thing is, after so many years of, more than 26 years of suffering, I stopped immediately and I did some process and I succeeded.
So what's the process you did? You want to share?
I was waiting for the savior. I was waiting for many years that somebody will come and understand my situation. They're going to pull me from that situation, living in an abusive relationship and being just victim of that reality. So I was one day, maybe my parents, maybe my family, maybe somebody will see me that I'm dying. Like I cannot continue living this way, even though I used to hide that. And they're going to, or somebody, or something going to save me. So when I understand, and it was first year of me introduced to Zohar study in Belgium, and I tried 26 years to overcome that challenge, to leave or to change, to make it better. Nothing helped. But when I understand that study, it was also very immediately. I did something very extreme. I just risked my life in the point that I said, either I die from this or I'm going to set myself free. And it's really helped me. In my case, I just needed to escape physically. And it was dangerous. But I had no choice because I had this understanding. There is no savior. I just can do this. Maybe I will succeed and maybe I will die. But I'm going to die anyway.
But make it in more accessible.
Yeah.
If you want to make it in more accessible terms to others, it's about you are willing to put behind what you think is your ultimate fulfillment because you understand what's the real fulfillment.
Yes.
Because Because when we use our talents, our gifts for a negative path, there is a sense of power. But when you realize it's a false sense of power, because other people are being manipulated or abused for the sake of a person that getting some kind of sense of they're above others, because that's what using negative talents in a negativity is a person put themselves over others. as opposed to serving others. So I want to kind of realign to what you're talking about. It doesn't make sense? Because that's what discussion is about. Using our talents from a negative path, not just about creating new reality, but what I'm talking about, how each and every one of us can reevaluate our talents and our gifts, and to see for what purpose are we using them.
I actually discovered that that's my gift.
To create new reality?
Yes. To go beyond I see and beyond anything. There is nothing just I can even imagine or even think, and still go and do it. Exactly because of that, I'm living this every day like that. And it sometimes looks crazy and not reasonable, but I know because it already happened. And the way it's happened, that it saved my life. So today, if something happened and I say, "Ooh, maybe I'll just give up, or I'm going to just whatever." No, I'm not doing this anymore, whatever, because I know I needed to take actions, even though it's like so not comfortable and so everything tells me that not to do that. But I know. It's like a jump, quantum jump.
Yeah, Malek.
And that's it. It's just not that reality again. Done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's continue. So there's another example that they talk in the Zohar about. There was a king in Israel. His name was Yerovam. Yerovam, he was a very powerful king that he used his powers in a very negative way. And what he did, he actually convinced the people to worship idol worship, to become the most negative idol worshippers that ever been in Israel in that time in his kingdom. Now, why I'm telling this example, because the Zohar says that he's going to be reincarnated as one of the key people in our generation that's going to actually teach people how to connect to source. So he's actually doing his tikkun, instead of convincing people to be idol worshippers, to be people who are connecting to source. That's another example. But maybe whatever he did 2,000 years ago until now, maybe he had to go through a lot of lifetimes to realize that. Because the power to lead people and to influence mind is a very powerful ability. And people, if they use for negative ways, it definitely gratifies their ego. It gives them sense of power, controlling others, all those things, which can be like very lucrative, or they seem so. But we need to understand, each and every one of us in our line of work, to what degree are we using our talents. It's very important. So, kind of to end this discussion about the klipot, now I'm going to move to the Zohar. The klipot are the external cloth of the inner and the real attributes. So imagine like it's the outer cloth. And the klipot are the strong, they are the extreme desire to receive. The essence of the klipot, it's a very strong desire to receive. It's a very good thing. When you wake up in the morning, it says, I want. It's a good thing. Now, it's extreme desire to receive for the self alone. Now, that's the negative aspect. But if we know how to transmit this desire, but we still have strong desire for the sake of sharing, that's how we transmit the klipot, and we really get to the essence of the fruit. That's how we ripen ourselves when we evaluate our ratzon. Okay? So, as long as the klipot serve the fruit, they are blessed. But if the klipot serve the negative end, the negative side, it's not the right direction to go. Okay? Anybody have questions? No?
It all came together. That really came together.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's almost like if the klipot serve the fruit, then the fruit ripens. But if it serves the birds, there goes.
Or the worms. They're gonna eat the fruit. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. So let's start with verse number 1 from Zohar Tetzave. ואתה תצווה את בני ישראל וגומר, ואתה הקרב אליך את אהרון אחיך וגומר. אמר רבי חייא, מהי שנה החם מבכל אתר? דכתיב, ואתה הקרב אליך, ואתה תדבר אל כל חכמי לב. ואתה תצווה את בני ישראל, ואתה קח לך בשמים ראש מר דרור, אלא קולה ברזי לאה, איהו, לאכללה שכינתה בהדי. Translation, and you shall command the children of Israel, and take you to you Aaron, your brother. Aaron was the high priest. Rabbi Chia said, why is this difficult than all the other places? For it is written, and take you to you, and you shall speak to all that are wise-hearted, and you shall command the children of Israel, take you also to you the best spices of pure mirth. It is not written as in all other places, and offer and speak and command and take. He answers, but everything is done with a supernal secret in order to include the Shekhinah with him, because the Shekhinah is called you, Ata. And when it is, or At, when it's written in you, it is done to include the Shekhinah with him or her in commanding, speaking, etc. This is a very important introduction to this portion, because this is the only portion that the name of Moshe is not mentioned. Moshe, it always talk about Moshe did that, Moshe talks about the Neshama. And then this entire portion of the Torah is directly said, you will do it. Which implies source text. It's basically source, it's about a dialogue that source talking directly to Moshe. It's not describing and he did that, you know. So it says, and you shall do, which basically is talking to us. And again, why are we talking about now time getting ready for Purim? It's about establishing our own personal Mashiach, our own direct direction to source.
So the source commanding to us.
It's not. It cannot command. No. It's not.
Why
source
not?
cannot
It can.
because it cannot command, because there is no free will if it commands you.
Because I understand also from one of the studies that we can also command God. We can demand, I would say.
It's not
Demand
command.
and
You can demand, but it's not about
Yes.
that. You can
And
demand.
sometimes, yeah, like
You can demand, but it doesn't mean you're gonna get.
what Rabbi Shimon did when the devil of the angel of death came.
No,
He commanded.
let's not go to other. Let's stay in this.
Yeah, but this was,
Let's stay in what we're talking. The point
Okay.
here that we are reminded to connect directly to the source. To connect directly, and of course, if we don't cultivate the faith, we don't know what we're talking to, and we don't know what desire to cultivate. Now, source cannot force us to do anything.
no, not forcing.
So, I mean, there is a process, like the fruit, eventually it will either, it is designed to be a certain fruit. We're humans. So by hook or by crook, we're going back to master plan for what we created. But nevertheless, we cannot be forced to do certain things. We have to do it on our own. We have to cultivate the desire on our own. So this verse and this portion of Tetzave means we shall command that we create the reality. Now, command also can be a negative aspect, because command is thinks about how many of us we may have in the past been operating on programming, external programming. We've been operating by the commands of others. So that can be the negative aspect. And of course, the Tetzave, like we said, is when אנחנו מצווים ציווי, when we are connecting between the realities, like the high priest.
It's like the king commands sometimes to his servants, not in a negative way. It's commands, I command you, to have better life, because sometimes people don't know how to do that. Sometimes you need to use the power in the positive way and say, I command, like the same source command to Moshe. It wasn't from the bad place, because he saw the fear of Moshe. And he knew that if he's going to ask Moshe to do his mission, Moshe said no. So they said, okay, so I shall command. And then boom, he moved.
We're not talking here about the historical events. The Moshe, the Moshe within us, the Moshe is our soul. Okay, the Moshe represents the neshama. So when we talk about commanding neshama, it's actually the other way around. Is the connect by our connection to our soul, we know what we need to do. So it's actually the soul that is not commanding, but it's the soul that is guiding us. Because when we're connected to the soul, we know what kind of work we're here to do.
And we trust.
And we trust. Yeah. And even if we don't see how it's going to unfold, we still do it.
Right.
We still do it.
That's beautiful. Exactly. That's the thank you, because you described the way I just wanted to say, but I couldn't.
Yeah. So it's the Moshe. I don't like to talk about the historical context. It's always about what's the code. Moshe is the neshama.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like when your soul knows, you just go and do it without seeing nothing. That's
the say soul mission.
Right.
It's not like this. The soul knows. The question is that do you know that you're actually connected to your soul? That's what we're all here to do.
That's what we study all the time.
And when we connect, we know what we're here to do, and we do it. We know that we are given certain skills or talents for a purpose.
Yeah, the Zohar is a manual for us to remind us all the time.
Yeah.
This connection.
Yeah. So let's move to verse number 8. Thank you. רזה קדמאה יוד נקודה קדמאה דקיימה על 9 סמכין דסמכין לה ואינון קיימין ל4 סתרי עלמה כמה דסופה דמחשבה נקודה בתראה קיימה ל4 סתרי עלמה בר דהי דחר ואיהי נוקבה. Translation. The first secret of the Yod is the Yud of the Yud Ke Vav Ke, which is the first point, namely Chokhmah, which stands upon 9 pillars that support it. They are stationed to the 4 directions of the world, south, north, east, and west, which are the 3 columns, and Malchut, 3 plus 1. Similarly, the end of thought, the last point is Malchut, stands to the 4 directions of the world, which are south, north, east, and west, the 3 columns and Malchut that receives them. They are all equal, one to the other, except that the upper point, which is the Yod of the Yud Ke Vav Ke, is male, and the last point, which is Malchut, is a female. So I showed this before. That's the point, that's the thought, that's the action. Okay? So we spoke about in the winter, that's the materialization, that's the winter, and then we're starting a new cycle of the thought. Okay? Now, first of all, before we begin a new cycle of thought, we want to look at the materialization to understand that whatever we materialize in this reality is a result of our thought. Because last year, if you go back a year ago, what was the thought? That's the materialization that we have right now. Who created that? We created that. This is the understanding, because we're going to start a new cycle, so we better recalibrate our thoughts. So the next winter, when we're in this point, we understand this is the fruit we created. That's what the fruit we're bearing. Does it make sense? Yeah. So we're connected. That's what we call about Letzavot. Letzavot is the connection between the 2 realities. And we talk about the Yud, like we said in the 10 Sefirot. That's the 1, and these are the 9 that's sitting on top of it. The letter Yud is numerical value of 10. That's the 1, and that's the 9 that's sitting on top of it. So the one that everything is funnels into is the outcome of the thought. And that's how it manifested in the physical reality. So it comes back to what kind of thought we have, what kind of awareness, what kind of ratzon we have. How big is our ratzon? Desire. My teacher, this verse is also about important. Talks about the Yud Ke Vav Ke, which are like the DNA for letters of the DNA of creation. Now, my teacher used the term energetic acupuncture. Like if you know how to use the Hebrew letters, these are energetic acupunctures. We actually use the language to pierce through energy and to create with our words. That's why we have all these powerful Kabbalist blessings that they're using, like to touch the meridians of energy in this reality, the unseen forces. Now, the Hebrew letters are also are like conduits. They're like codes or programs. The antivirus program, like I like to use the term, to connect to higher consciousness that can manifest in physical reality. But everything that we're experiencing is actually, we experience that in our awareness. Even if it's something physical, the pleasure we derive is in our awareness. So the more we recalibrate our awareness, we can go beyond just the physical pleasures. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the letter Yud represents, like we said, the Chokhmah, which is the wisdom. And physicality, the number Hey, the letter Hey is the Malchut. Another important thing is, I don't know how many of you guys actually have a habit of actually reading, going to the texts of the Zohar. But it's a very good habit also to scan letters with your eyes. Even if you don't understand Hebrew, but just scanning letters with your eyes have power, because it's like you scan a barcode. So even if you don't understand, if you don't speak Hebrew, you don't read Hebrew, just going to those verses and scanning with your eyes, whatever pertains to the energy of the week, is also a very powerful habit, even if you don't understand how it works. Like imagine like you are driving, you bought a new car with some amazing technology. You drive the car, but you don't really understand how it works, but you still drive it, right? The same thing with the Zohar. You don't necessarily understand exactly how it works, huh?
The phone.
The phone, yeah.
We use 5% of what it actually can do.
And if you know, we don't even, I think most of us don't ever understand how the phone works. Yeah. You know, even electricity, people, we don't really understand how electricity works, but we know there is electricity. Nobody really can see electricity. But
you're right about the language, because I've just been starting to study with Marav, and then on my own just writing the letters, and it's like I'm a whole different person. It's just like unlocked so much. It's Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah, and even scanning, and even now, with this knowledge, you can scan the letters. You can start to identify the letters too.
And the 72 names.
Yeah.
To like specifically, like I can see that it's like acupuncture points.
Yeah.
It's acupuncture points.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's a great example of actually you walking the walk, so to speak. Yeah,
in front of the
names.
acupuncture points. We all.
So let's continue. We have 20 more minutes. Let's continue. Anybody online have questions, Maya?
No.
We have anybody online?
We do
Anybody
have,
there?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go to verse number 15. וחולה אי הוא סליק בראותה דסמיכות דמחשבה בעינון סמכין דעת יוד ועל דעתוון בצירופי הוא תלת תלת בכל צירופה דילי בגין לסלקה בראותה דעת יוד דתלת נקודין כמה דתמר ועל דע לה הסתליק בסליקות דצירופה אלא מעיקרה ושורשה דרזה דאילן סמכין דסמכין לעת יוד רזה דעת מם בריבועה תת נקודין תמניה נקודין תריסר נקודין שבעין וטרן נקודין השתכח דכל רזה דשמה קדישה קיימה בעת יוד וחולה רזה חדה וקיימה ברזה דבוצינה כמה דהתמר למעבד סמיכו לכל עת ועת ואינון סמכין אינון רתיחה דלהון דכל עת ועת כמה דהתמר. Translation. And the wish comes to support thought, which is chokhmah, which means wisdom in Hebrew, with the support of the letter Yud, meaning that the purpose of all the permutations of the name of the Ayin Bet, the 72 names, is to reveal the chokhmah that is in the Yud of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, that is called thought. Therefore, the letters come permutated in the name of the Ayin Bet, the 72 names of God. That's we just mentioned. The 3 letters to each permutation. So these like 3 letters that are actually like the 3 different 72 codes of 3 letters each one. So each combination of 3 letters is completely unlocking a different force. A permutation to physical, like we say, acupuncture points in this reality. One is about abundance, about fertility, about health, etc. So in order to gain favor with the letter Yud of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, contains 3 points, top, middle, and end, as we have said. Therefore, the permutation comes up only from the essence and the root of the secret of the supports of the letter Yud, according to the secret of the letter final Mem, quadrupled, as mentioned. For they are the 3 points, top, middle, and end, which are the essence of the root of all the supports that evolve from it, which are 9 points, 8 points, 12 points, 72 points. Thus, the entire secret of the holy name is based on the letter Yud. It all pertains to the same secret, to the same secret, meaning the secret of the drawing of Chokhmah, and exists by means of the luminary, which is Binah of Arich Anpin, the Keter of this Yud, which is Abba in Im. I'm going to explain what it means. Sounds maybe ambiguous. As we have said, support every letter of the name of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the supports, the 9 and the 8 and the 12 and the 72 mentioned above, are the chariot to every letter of the name of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, as we have said. So this verse explains how, when we talk about the upper world and the lower world, imagine like there's a power station that the energy there is immense, is endless energy. In order to bring forth the energy into this reality, it needs to go through a process of like transformers. Like you cannot connect your device directly to the power station because it gets burned. So
Filtration.
there's filtration. So that's, we have the system of the 72 names to break down those energy into smaller portions that we can connect to. So, but what it says, the Yud is the source of it, is the connection. That's what we took. The Yud is like the Keter. Okay? So it breaks down the energy into portions. So that's why, first of all, we need to understand the power of the Hebrew letters, because a letter in Hebrew is Tav. Tav is a letter. But actually Tav means a signal. So the Hebrew letters are signals. Yeah, Ot. So these are energetic signals. So when you have different combinations, they produce different frequencies. These are real frequencies. So by start understanding what the Zohar is telling us, it's a very great habit to connect to those letters and these teachings, because we can achieve much more energetic connection to something we don't even understand. But just like my teacher used to say, just fly with it, with faith, if you have the faith, if you believe. Okay? Because like we say, it's not seeing is believing is seeing. It's the other way around.
Well, you also don't want blind faith.
No, it's not blind faith, because it's actually it's very precise science. Like when you talk about, for example, different aspects of the four seasons, but we know that the physicality is just the outcome. So the four seasons are actually seasons of energy that are broken down into physical manifestation. So the cycles exist, but you need to understand. But what you see in nature, there's force that governs the nature.
I have a story, if you don't mind me sharing.
Please.
About the 72 names. I wrote them all down, and I was like I was kind of feeling into all of it, and it took me a few days, and then I started to kind of identify those acupuncture points in like the world, or in me, which like also represents the whole of everybody else, and I started to like kind of command or just say it out loud to those things. Well, and then, you know, at night, you know, I set myself to rise, to elevate, you know, in the night. However, each one of the things that I had most strongly like called out to like kind of command with the light or whatever, those things kept on trying to like bring me back down before I elevated. And so it was like, anyways, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but as soon as you started to read that verse, there was a bug here, and I got completely distracted. And so I'm just saying like that it's powerful, and the other forces know that you're using that power, and so they will like try, and they know exactly where it's coming from. So I felt like I was like angry at myself for getting distracted with this bug, but I thought it was a really good example of how specifically it will.
They will send you their angels to distract.
But they will send you, but also you can use like the antivirus program. There is antivirus.
You have it when you learn that, which is that one is antivirus program.
Antivirus and firewall too. So let's continue. Thank you. It's a great example. I appreciate it for saying.
Don't be angry.
So let's. Where's the bug?
I put it outside.
Okay.
Oh, and you can. It's recorded. You can go back to it.
Okay. Let's go to
the
verse
bag
number.
Is safe.
Always very interesting things happen here when we do the zone. Like the electricity went out. There's things that happening here.
I just want to mention to students online that we are vegans. We don't kill bugs. It's outside.
And we don't eat them either.
Free.
Yeah.
And just not bothering us. But
So now I'm going to talk about creating protective shields. That's what it's about right now.
Right.
How we create a protective shield. Verse number 52. ואנה וכמנה בקרא אחרה דכתיב מברך רעהו בקול גדול בבוקר השכם כללה תחשב לו ואף על גב דחולה שפיר אבל מה יחידלו לכם מן האדם אשר נשמה באפו הכה פקיד קודשא בריחו לברנש ואזהיר להסתמרה מעינון בני נשה דסתו ארכיהו מאורח תו לאורח ביש ומסעבי נפשהו בהוא מסעבו אחרה. Translation. I have explained the passage sees together with another passage that says, he that blesses his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him. Even though it is well, meaning even though he has already blessed the Holy One, blessed be he, and it is not necessary to caution about it cease. What is cease from man, though his breath be in his nostrils? Here the Holy One, blessed be he, has commanded the man and cautioned him to guard himself from those people who have turned from a good way to an evil way and defile themselves with the impurity of the other side. Translation. So, explanation. So basically, when we talk about evil, again, we talk about the selfish desires. Now, we cannot shield ourselves from society because everybody have evil inclination. Each and every one of us have evil, what we call evil, ratzon atzmi, desire for the self alone. Each and every one of us has that. First of all, we have to start with that. Now, the second thing is what the Zohar is teaching us, one of the ways for us to create a protective shield is to learn to identify and to be cautious of those who just desire for themselves alone. Especially like when we recognize those people in our reality have only selfish desires. We have to be very careful about these people. Okay, not to judge them, but there's also a reason why we recognize that. What's the reason? Now the reason is because, first of all, we cannot recognize in others that was something we don't have in ourselves. So when we see somebody outside with very negative selfish desires, guess what? We recognize something that we have the inclination. Doesn't mean, first of all, that they are worse than us. Because we cannot recognize something we don't identify within ourselves. Either now or in the past. Very important to remember that. So, we must evaluate our own desire to receive for the self alone by seeing what we identify in other people. Not to judge them. First of all, if we need to keep a distance from them, we should. But also we need to see that as a reminder to evaluate our own desires. Where are we? Okay? Now people on the outside are always a reminder for us of our own evil inclination. Never to judge them. One of the things my teacher said last week, which is very important aspect, when we go higher in our knowledge and awareness of the Zohar, one of the biggest traps is to start saying, oh, how come these people, they're wasting the time? How come it's like being judgmental of other people? So this is the most negative thing to do. To put ourselves above others. Because when we
were there once, so...
Whatever level we are, because the more you actually learn it, the more you realize, okay, we know nothing. I started to study Zohar in 2006. And I told my wife last night, actually, only recently I started to understand it. Now I'm beginning to learn, actually, what I'm learning. It took me 11 years. Now I actually start to realize that actually I'm starting to understand a little bit.
That's because you started teaching.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
and I realized until now I had no idea actually what I'm learning at all. Only now because I started to share, I begin to understand a little bit of it. So it doesn't matter what level we are. Don't look at other people and say, oh, how come these people, look at their life, such a waste of that. Don't get into that place. Instead, see how you can be a force to influence them. How you can embody that quality that actually say, oh wow, actually I want to study with this person. To be example, yeah. Yes. Not to judge. Yeah. So the protective shield is abstaining from judgment. That's a protective shield.
How interesting.
Yeah, because judging others, you immediately
open yourself to harm.
Judging others, you become immediately like the target of viruses.
You don't have protective shield.
Yeah, that's of course. Yeah, and of course, guarding our body, like we said, there's another way. Like, be aware what are we putting inside our body, because the Zohar says, like the evil inclination multiplies itself. We said last week. The evil inclination multiplies itself in our intestines, parasites. So of course, what
the
we eat.
The serpent is there actually. That's the serpent.
The serpent is there. The digestive system.
We need to be careful what we feed that serpent.
Yeah.
Either we numb it and make it sleep and not harm us, or then give the food they ask for that, and then let them be a king of their body.
The Zohar teaching us marbe basar marbe rima, multiply meat, multiply worms. It says very clearly.
I'm not judging, but
marbe basar marbe rima.
How many people study Kabbalah and they don't get that? I'm not judging them, but we know that. And we
just be the role model
from that places because we said the truth.
It's again, we cannot understand.
You said the truth actually.
No, but it's like, the point is like, we cannot understand, but if we share, because the Zohar even says, like, when we understand what they put inside our body, even Zohar teaching us, maintaining a clean digestive system is important to our spiritual growth. Maintaining a clean colon. It says, Lishmor al me'amikim, clean intestines.
Jesus was teaching that in the Gospel of Peace, in this book.
Exactly.
But there's a saying also, be a healer, not a teacher.
Yeah. It's easy.
So that's that.
Nothing wrong to be a teacher. Nothing wrong to be a teacher, but it's actually,
in the 72 names, there's the one that says, "Be a teacher, not a preacher."
No, teacher, not a preacher.
Yeah.
Maybe that's right.
So what's wrong to be a teacher?
Yeah.
I don't see myself. I see myself as a student. Actually, I don't think I'm a teacher. But this is the teacher, Rabbi Shimon.
Because we're feeding each other.
Yeah.
And
we are all students. That's why it's a study.
This is Rabbi Shimon is the teacher. Rav Ashlag, they're the teachers. I don't see myself as a teacher. Anyway, students, that's okay.
Sure.
So let's go to verse number 54. ואי חזינן להי ברנש דהבו בי אילן דרגין כולהו עד לה קיימה בקיומי למינדמן איהו במאי התיידע לקרבה ברנש בהדי. או להתמנעה מיני ברוגזי ממש, ידע לי ברנש וישתמודה מן איהו. אי ההיא נשמתה קדישה נטר בשעתה דרוגזוי. דלה יקר לה מאתרהה בגין למשרי תחותה, ההוא אל זר. דא איהו ברנש כדקאיות. דא איהו עבדה דמערי, דא איהו גבר שלים. Translation. If we see a person that has all these levels, which are nefesh, ruach, and neshama, the three levels of the soul, and is still not know clearly what he is or she is, how can we determine whether to approach that person or avoid that person? Here then is his real anger. One could know and recognize this person for what he truly is, by the anger. Is the person guard the holy neshama in his or her anger, so as not to uproot it from its place and bring a foreign god, El, to replace it? Then this person is a proper man or woman. Such is a servant of his master, such is a whole man. So the Zohar is teaching us a profound secret is the attribute of anger. We spoke about creating a protective shield. So anger, we spoke about judgment. Anger is one of the ways for us, again, to completely, whatever spiritual work we get, but if we fall into very deep anger, we completely become servants of the other side. Now, we all get angry to some degree. We cannot be anger-free. But the question is, to what level of anger we go and how long we dwell in the anger. And what Zohar teaching us, you can see by a person's anger, what level are they on their spirituality. And why is that? Now, if you think about anger, why we get angry? Because we think something is in a threat. Something is threatened in our reality, okay? Now, if we look about, there are three levels of the soul. We know that anger resides where? What part of the body?
The liver.
In the liver. So the liver is the lowest part, is the level of the animal. So usually, the biggest we are, or the most focused we are on physical reality, on the animal aspect, when our territory is threatened, our honor, our respect, whatever those attributes, our bodies. I mean, it's okay to protect our bodies, nothing wrong with that. But what anger we generate will make us subdued to a certain force, which is a very negative force. Now, the word of, like we said, Tetzave, is, like when we talk about, we said that earlier, are we operating of the command of others? Because anger can put us in a situation where actually under the influence of somebody else's command that makes us angry.
Influence, what that means?
What it means, influence, ashpa. Okay. If we, in a level that we're not aware where awareness is, and where, for what is the cause from which we're operating, we don't know who is actually running the show from the back. Like we say, like, if a person eats certain food, like they eat very acidic food, so they have parasites. So the parasites, they create cravings that the person will eat food that the parasites want, not the person. So who's commanding? The parasites. The same thing with other desires that we have.
The same thing with anger.
Anger too, exactly.
So who is commanding?
The sitra achra. Because it's again, if you see anger, it comes from a sense of a threat. So if a person says, oh, look, like let's say somebody said something to us, so, oh, he's threatening my respect, my dignity, or
my belief system.
Or my belief system, or this person is threatening my share in the global distribution of certain product. He's a competition, so you get angry. So who is commanding you to be angry? You know what I'm saying?
Your ego.
Well, who is the ego? The other side.
But sometimes ego can be a kind of protection in the way that to recognize that person harming you.
Yes.
To get, you know.
Of course, you take actions, but what I'm saying, and there's also good anger, but it's not an anger that puts you in a
judgment.
In a judgment, but also it's a sort of, the anger is very destructive. It's like fire that is consuming us.
Yeah, it's
you know, like my teacher many times was angry in certain things in this, but it's not from. It's coming from love.
From love, he was angry from love.
Yeah. So
he used to sometimes scream on some. He's the best student.
Yeah.
Not all from the others, but just one-on-one. He was just shouting on him, da, da, da. And then he would just come out from the room smiling. But he needed to hit that. So, but he said,
like
I
going
love
to
him
the
so
store.
much.
Yeah.
It's like you love your child so much, and sometimes you have to do, they just stop.
Yeah.
And just because from the love, not from the judgment, you know.
Yeah. Well, a few minutes. Let's hurry up a little bit. So, just before I finish this one, we talk about the liver. One of the roles of the liver is to purify the blood. Okay. So, what if we are not? So, if on a physical level, if the operation or the functionality of the liver is compromised, the blood is toxic. The blood is the life force that runs in our system. Besides, we have the breath and the oxygen that mixes with the blood. But if the blood is poisoned, what it makes us?
And it creates disease.
Creates disease. So the liver, of course, the physical embodiment. But if we
So anger creates disease, actually.
anger creates acidity in the body.
Right, and
acidity
disease.
creates disease. So there's like the physical embodiment of those negative attributes. Of course, acidity can also be formed by certain foods. But even anger makes the body very acidic. So it's all connected to each other. Okay?
Yes, I can testify that I noticed with myself that whenever I eat wheat, like bread and crust and stuff like that, I get this angry behavior
Wow.
and
But you know, it's not you.
impatient,
It's not you.
depressed, all these symptoms that and it comes out on the people I love that are around me all the
But
time.
you know
Wow.
why?
I know it's not me, it's a parasite.
It's the wheat that turns
It's
to
the
sugar
wheat.
in the body, and the sugar creates parasites, and parasites make us
So it
angry
feeds
because they just want
just the
want.
acidity or the way that my body is processing it. I just notice that every time if I have a day that I eat wheat, I get cranky and weird and angry and impatient and then create fights and it's a disaster and then I suffer.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. I
You
suffer.
then.
So I'm like, okay, no more. And I'm really dedicated. Once I realized
professional gluten-free.
once I really it's recent where I tried it again and it proved itself again but I do it unconsciously, you know. Oh, I'll just have a sandwich today, and it's like, and then by the evening, it's a disastrous day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I ate this and this and this, and so I'm just dedicated, devoted not to eat that anymore, not to poison myself like that, because it's really it has the ability to ruin my life.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Dedicated replace that for the better bread.
Crackers.
That
Yeah. Let's continue. Maya, let's we don't have a lot of time, so yeah, let's finish. We have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move to verse number 86. huh?
No.
ותו דלה מתיישבן מילי דאורייתא אל התמן דלת נהורה אל ההוא דנפיק מגו חשוכה דחד התקפיה סתרדה הסתלה קודשא בריחו לעילה והתייקר בעיקרי ולת פולחנה דקודשא בריחו אלא מגו חשוכה ולת טובה אלא מגו בישה וחד על ברנש באורח בישה ושביק לי כדי נסתלק קודשא בריחו בעיקרי ועלדה שלימו דחולה טוב ורע כחדה ולהסתלקה לבטר בטוב ולת טוב אלא ההוא דנפק מגו בישה ובהי טוב הסתלק יקרי ודע איהו פולחנה שלים. Translation: The words of Torah become clear only there, and the only light that is, which comes out of the darkness. When this side is subdued, the dark side is subdued, the Holy One, blessed be He, rises, and His glory becomes greater. There is no service of the Holy One, blessed be He, except from out of darkness, and no good except from that of the evil. When a person enters the evil way and then leaves it, the Holy One, blessed be He, rises in His glory. Therefore, overall perfection is good and evil together and rise into the good afterward. The only good is good that emerges from evil. And through this good, the glory of the Holy One, blessed be He, is elevated. This is perfect service, which comes down to really understanding what is the work of the light workers. It doesn't mean what we have to pursue the evil path so we can bring out goodness. We do our best, but sometimes we also do things that are taking us away from the path. Obviously, we don't go backwards, we go forward, but we have also the opportunity to help others to make the transmutation of the energy. This is that really brings the goodness out of the darkness.
The free choice, that he used free choice in this case. Because,
Yeah.
you know, if the person always good, he was born good and always did good, it's good.
Yeah.
But when the person had this battle between evil and good all the time, and sometimes, most of the time, it's evil, and then he stops and says, choose good, the Zohar says that it reveals more light because he used his free choice. Because he had both so powerfully. So
Yeah.
that's,
So let's move verse number 91-92. והוא סתרה אחרה קיימה קליפה תקיפה דלייכי לדברה בר בהוא איתה דקודשא בריחו יהיב לישראל נכתיב תקעו בחודש שופר בכיסא ליום חגנו בגין לתברה ההוא כיסא להתחפיה שערה ולנהיר. Translation. In the other side there is a hard klipa, shell, that is impossible to break, except with the counsel of the Holy One, blessed be He, gave the children of Israel, as written, blow shofar, the horn, at the new moon and at the full moon, on our feast day, in order to break that cover with which the moon is covered, which is malchut, so it does not shine. 92. וחד מתערי ישראל את עתה בשופר, ההוא קלה דנפיק משופר, בטש באווירה, ובקע רקיעין, עד דסלקה לגבי ההוא תנרה תקיפה, דחפי לסיירה אשגח, ואשגח התערותה דרחמי, כדין ההוא דסליג וקיימה לאלה, התערבב, כדין ההוא קלה קיימה, וערבר ההוא דינה, וכיוון דלתתה התערו רחמי, הכי נמי לאלה, התער שופרה אחרה אילאה, והפיק קלה דאיהו רחמי, והתערעו קלה בקלה רחמי ברחמי, ובהתערותה דלתתה התער הכי נמי לאלה. Translation. When the children of Israel awaken below by the blow of the shofar, the sound that emanates from the shofar blasts the air and splits firmaments until it rises to that hard rock, namely the other side, that covers the moon. It observes and brings forth an awakening of mercy. Then the other side that rises and remains above, covering the moon, is confounded. That sound stands and removes that judgment from Malchut. Since mercy has awakened below in Malchut, another supernal shofar also awakens above, which is Binah, and produces a sound, namely the mochin of Zeir Anpin, that is called sound, kol, which is mercy. Sound meets sound, mercy meets mercy, because by the lower awakening there is also an awakening above. So this really verse is about how we break the klipot, the shells. Like we said, the shells are the concealment. It implies that actually we have work here to reveal what's underneath. If we have no work, there is no purpose for us being here. If everything is revealed, we have nothing to do here. Obviously, breaking the klipot starts with what we recognize with ourselves. Those shells that each and every one has to our own degree, okay? Now, the nature of this physical reality, like we said, is concealment. And we cannot reveal it with only physical tools. We cannot reveal something which is unseen, which is not physical, with something physical. That's why science is constantly, it's very hard to talk to them in the same language because they're using certain tools to measure something which is not measurable. And then when they realize that there's a new tool to measure something they could not measure before, but you try to explain something to them, but they don't have the tools to measure it. That's why it's very limited. So you cannot use physical, something to measure something is not physical.
Quantum physics.
Even quantum physics, there's so much you can measure, or sometimes you can quantify, because quantum means to something that you can define. Yeah. But definition itself is limited. So that's why we have to use the elements of the Zohar to go beyond those things. That's why the faith is necessary, because you cannot see that. You have to attain something beyond the five senses. It's a completely different system of evaluation of reality. Okay, we're going to go a little bit over time because we had some dark...
Lots of
disturbances.
Concealments.
Nevertheless, we're going strong. So
it's interesting that this week Zohar talks about klipot, all the shells.
A lot.
It's like, oh.
Because we talk about the concealment, because when we have the desire may be clothed with a lot of concealment, but nevertheless, it's not going to stop the person to desire.
So maybe it's also preparation for the Purim, because
Of course.
we're actually cleaning all the limitations, all the curtains removing, and
Yeah.
all the shelves cleaning and revealing in Purim in Saturday night.
Sunday
It's
night, I
like
think.
Saturday night?
Sunday.
Or is it-
Sunday night.
Sunday night, yeah, it's Purim, yeah.
So it starts in
Sunday evening.
Sunday evening.
Yeah, the Megillah.
And then
and the
it's
next-
kind of, I feel like all this preparation.
But it's
for
real
us
because
to-
we dress up, which we conceal ourselves.
We put a mask on the mask.
A mask on the mask.
And that's what the Kabbalists, they usually get drunk and
No,
they get
why
to
why
lose
really
to lose
use-
the identity, the false
You know
identity.
why we really put masks?
The mask on the mask.
Yes, but why?
To put the concealment to reveal the really truth, because even what we wear is not real.
The one of the I remember one of the studies before the Zohar, we used to study lots of them. That imagine you in the daily life, who you are, and you have friends, and we have masks. We don't share and say everything to even our best friends and family. Now, in the evening of Purim, we put masks and we put all these costumes, and we enter the party. Nobody is really recognizing us. They don't really know, and we don't say who we really are because we have all these masks. And in this time, we can be so free. We can see whatever we want because nobody knows who we really are.
We
See?
can be who we want
And
to.
we can be and say and
To reveal what we usually conceal.
Yes,
To a certain degree.
not hurt others.
Don't freak
it's not
people
hurt-
out, you know?
Not hurt others, but that's why they say get high. This is the one day in a year that recommended to get high.
Yeah.
Spiritual
Nasiya,
reason,
it's
from alcohol, from substance. Excuse me, it's all legal. In California, it's legal. No, but again, why? It's not just for self alone. It's just remove more masks, remove more shelves. Use that day, not to hurt again, to feel what the real freedom is, to be really you. And it's really beautiful because second day we're all like, whoa.
So use this
Recovery.
verse. So thank you, Maya. So really, you want to invite you to use this verse to remove the klipot, the addictions, the doubts, the fears, the negativity, all those things that are preventing us to really to connect to the higher will, to the higher, what we call the higher self, which is beyond what we think, what we perceive ourselves that we are. It's beyond our identity. We always talk about what is our identity. It's way beyond what we imagine who we are. Not our gender, not our age, our profession. There's much, much more to
Yes,
that.
and it's also one of the fun things was in Purim. Usually all the year we study and we see our teacher usually very, very elegant, sitting, very polite. And in that day we see our teacher like a child, naughty and drunk and screaming and dancing. You're like, wow, he's actually like we are, the same. It's not like he's some big. No, it shows that how really simple we are, like kids, all of us.
Another human.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's finish one last about darkness. פתח רבי שמעון ואמר, הוא גלה גלי עמיקתה ומסתרתה, ידע מה בחשוכה ונהורה עמי שרה. הוא גלי עמיקתה ומסתרתה, קודש בריחו גלי עמיקתה ומסתרתה. דכל עמיקין סתימין אילאין איהו גלי לון. ומהי טעמה גלי לון? בגין דידע מה בחשוכה. דאלמלא חשוכה, לה התידע נהורה. ואיהו ידע מה בחשוכה, ובגין כך גלי עמיקתה ומסתרתה. די לאו חשוכה, לה התגליין עמיקין ומסתרן, ונהורה עמי שרה, מן נהורה דה, נהורה דהתגליה מגו חשוכה. Rabbi Shimon opened the discussion saying, he reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him, from the book of Daniel. He reveals the deep and secret things means that the Holy One, blessed be He, reveals the deep and secret things. He reveals all the supernal concealed depths, namely the central column that reveals the depths of the two columns of Binah. Why did He reveal them? It is because He knows what is in the darkness, namely in the darkness of the left where the light of Chokhmah sinks because of the lack of Chasadim. If there was no darkness, the light would not later be revealed through the central column. He knows what is in the darkness, meaning that He included in it the right column. Therefore, He revealed deep and concealed things. For were it not for the darkness of the left, the depths and the concealed would not be revealed. Then the light dwells with him. What is in this light? It is the light that has been revealed from within the darkness, which is Chokhmah. This is pretty much gives the secret of Purim. This is what is revealed on Purim. The energy that we can be, we can connect when we understand. It's not just about partying and getting this and getting. There's really powerful connection that if you know Yom Kippurim, Kippurim means it's like Purim, because it says that Purim. They say that Yom Kippur is the highest day of the year, but actually Kippurim is like Purim. Purim is the highest day of the year, the full moon of Pisces.
So can you explain again what's the purpose? I mean, you just wrote this. So can
Yes.
you simply kind of...
In a simple level, when we talk about Chokhmah and Binah, this is two parts. We usually talk about... let me remove this from here. I'm going to be easier to see the diagram. Throughout, we always talk about the system of the seven, right? Okay? On Yom Kippur, we actually connect him to Binah. On Purim, we connect to Binah. It's the energy storehouse of the universe. We don't have access to that aspect. Usually we don't. But we know that there are certain times throughout the year, there's cosmic openings, cosmic windows in time when we can connect to that. Because if we try to do it in a certain way on our own, we can get burnt. Like some people, they do some, let's say, some ayahuasca, some plant medicine, but they're not going there prepared. They're revealing very strong light, but they're not prepared to handle. So that's why we have certain times of the year that the Kabbalists, they use this time to connect. They don't do it consciously, and they're doing because they know there are cycles of energy. So when we know how to use this opportunity, we can connect to very, very high level of awareness that can help us expand our vessel in a safe way, without burning or breaking the vessel. Because there's a term called Shvirat HaKelim. When a person reveals themselves to very strong light, they cannot handle it. So they become crushed, they shatter to pieces. But when we know how to do it safely in a certain time with the technology of the Kabbalah and all that, so we can go there safely, we can come back safely. So
that's the day of Purim.
That's Purim. So I wish you all, guys, an amazing week and a happy Purim. And this Shabbat, definitely do make the effort to listen to the Torah reading, which is Shabbat ZOHAR, to remove all the Amalek, our own personal doubts from your reality, so we can bring Mashiach. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you can add a link to where we can listen.
Well, just Google. You can find online streaming of Shabbat. There's different places you can find, not particular synagogues.
So the last
Shasta ZOHAR
part was